Good morning. Welcome to the forecast discussion for January 12th, 2014. It's currently 8:11 a.m. And temperatures are, well, pretty much above normal for this time of year. Don't get used to that, though, because our January thaw is coming to an end, and in a very active way. Not necessarily a big storm way, though. I'll explain why. I know there's a lot of talk about potential for big storms. So let's get to the forecast. We have temperatures currently in the mid to upper 30s over much of the interior, a few lower 30s in some of your interior valleys, and lower to mid 40s along the coast as that cold front has cleared off the area, and all the rain is now well to the east of the region, which means that Sunday is going to be dry and comfortable, with temperatures rebounding into the mid to upper 40s for highs this afternoon. Definitely cooler than what we saw yesterday, with a very rainy upper 50s to lower 60s. It was foggy. You had thunderstorms. It was a very ugly day on Saturday. But the good news is that Sunday will be, well, sunny. So that works out well, with temperatures again in the mid to upper 40s. When we take a look at the radar, you can see, and bring this up, on Intellicast's radar, pretty much all the rain is now out in the Atlantic. We have a few lake effect snow showers. They will not reach the East Coast. So pretty much we're looking at high and dry conditions with high pressure, you can see, under strong influence over much of the rest of the country. And here comes our first cold front clipper that will start to change our weather pattern. Now on the surface map again, you can see high pressure is anchored down in the Gulf Coast. We have a nice northwesterly flow. Look for winds anywhere from 10 to 20 miles per hour today from the west and northwest as that cooler Pacific air moves into the region. That's why we're staying relatively warm and above normal for this time of year by about 10 degrees. But again, don't get used to this because it's coming to an end, and it's coming to an end starting on Tuesday with temperatures starting to fall off. Now here is our infrared satellite picture. You can see cold front off the coast, clearing skies, very tranquil, comfortable conditions for today and for tomorrow. Then things start to change. Now, I'm using the GFS model guidance, but I could use the European model guidance or the Canadian model guidance. Right now, it's not really about model guidance. It's about the general idea of where we are in the pattern. And as I was saying a couple of days ago, we were going to have a January thaw. And, of course, I told my premium members, don't buy into all the nonsense of winter's over and all that stuff, because I showed via physics of stratospheric warming that's going on right as we speak, that the pattern will relock into a very cold and stormy weather pattern. So this week is what I call the transition week. It's the week in which we go from very mild temperatures, a nice January thaw, allowing all that snow to melt. God knows we needed it when we were at 0 degrees just a couple of days ago. Now we're going back to our cold and stormy weather pattern. But it doesn't lock in like a snap. You know, weather patterns do not change in a snap. They typically moderate or they cool down in steps. And that's pretty much what we're going to be seeing this coming week. So here we are on this evening. High pressure's in control. Temperatures are in the mid to upper 40s. It's a nice day for Sunday. You know, scattered cloud cover, it's very comfortable. Monday, again, we pretty much have high pressure in control. We have a southwesterly flow. Scattered cloud cover is expected. Temperatures are very warm. Low temperatures in the upper 20s to lower 30s. High temperatures in the upper 40s to lower 50s. Very comfortable, very nice weather. But look what's happening. We're starting to see a ridge in the west. Trough starting to dig in the east. We have a cold front on the way. And of course, that means on Tuesday, we have a cold front move through, and then a wave of low pressure tries to develop along that front Tuesday night and Wednesday. Now, let me be very, very blunt here. You see all these disturbances here? 1, 2, 3, 4. With one disturbance after another developing over North America, you cannot have a big storm develop. It's kind of like a train, okay? We have too many trains on the track. You're going to have them forcing one after the other to move, okay? You can't have one just kind of sit there and really develop and intensify. So what we're really looking at here is not a big storm pattern, but a clipper pattern. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get a low pressure system rapidly intensifying off the coast and dropping a surprise heavy snowfall. But the potential of that is very low. And the reason why is because while there is some blocking in the northern Atlantic, it's not optimal. Okay, so basically what you have to set up here is perfect timing at the right time at the right place for a low pressure system to intensify. And that's what some of the models are trying to pick out here. They're picking out the fact that the pattern is changing, there's a lot of thermal gradients setting up, and there's a lot of potential out there. But every time you get a low pressure system starting to get its act together along the coast, you have another disturbance in the Great Lakes ready to dive in to take its place. So you really don't have the potential for a storm really to slow down and intensify. But this is a pattern in which we step down from temperatures well above normal to temperatures below normal. And in that type of pattern, you have a lot of potential for a lot of these disturbances to kind of develop along the coast. So Tuesday night into Wednesday, it could be a light snow threat, especially over the interior, because I think the coast is still going to remain too warm. Temperatures on Tuesday are going to range from the upper 30s to lower 40s for lows and upper 40s to lower 50s for highs. Now look what happens on Wednesday, okay? By the time we get to Wednesday morning, we start to get colder air built in. Low temperatures will be in the lower to mid 30s. A lot colder than, let's say, upper 30s to lower 50s. Our high temperatures are going to be in the upper 30s over the interior and lower to mid 40s along the coast. Excuse me. This is why I don't think Tuesday into Wednesday is a major threat here. It's our first clipper moving through. Could see some light snow over the interior, like the Lehigh Valley. Maybe 2, maybe 2 to 4 inch type threat. But I really don't see anything more significant than that. And I think that is even going to be limited a great deal with a lot of this snowfall melting before it hits the ground or melting on the pavement. And more of a snowfall for your grassy surfaces. So that's the first wave. Here comes the second wave. Now this is for Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Now this is a little bit more interesting. A lot of the models are trying to pick this up. But again, here we are Wednesday night into Thursday. Very dynamic, very impressive trough. Some of the Ensemble model guides has this as a negatively tilted trough, which isn't unreasonable. You definitely have the cold air in place, but there's one problem. Hello, this disturbance right here is knocking on the door, saying, hey, let me in. I want to knock down the temperatures even more. So, as a result, while this pattern is changing, if this disturbance wasn't here, okay, and you had an upper level low, let's say right around here, then this disturbance would certainly signal the potential for a big storm. But you don't have that. What you have here is a building ridge over the Atlantic, which certainly will slow down this disturbance, but it won't allow it to lock in. It won't allow it to really intensify. So what you end up with is a clipper with a rapidly developing coastal low with the potential for some light to moderate snow along the coast Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Again, I don't see this as a heavy snow event unless this low pressure system just basically explodes and then kicks out. So basically what you would be looking for, and what the GFS is showing here, is a low pressure system that rapidly intensifies, and then you get a very tight, very dynamic band of snow right along the coast, let's say from Boston down to coastal New Jersey. It lasts for about 4 hours and it kicks out. It has to kick out because this disturbance is right on the way. So again, this pattern is certainly very interesting. It certainly is a step down pattern, and I'll tell you why it's a step down pattern. By the time we get to Wednesday, should I say, we're looking at low temperatures in the lower to mid 30s, high temperatures in the lower to mid 40s, and then on Thursday, as the storm is leaving, let's just show that. So that low pressure system is kicking out. You can see that low pressure system intensifying here. On Thursday, we start off with temperatures in the mid to upper 20s. So Wednesday night into Thursday, you certainly have that potential for snowfall. Okay? But again, it can't be a big storm because this disturbance by Thursday morning is already diving into the Great Lakes. So this disturbance is already forced off the coast. You see what I'm saying? This is not a major snowstorm pattern. This is a clipper pattern. And this clipper pattern is becoming enhanced because the whole pattern is changing. We're in the midst of a pattern change back to winter weather. So this pattern, again, is more of a sign of light to moderate snow events. You could get a heavy snow event if a low pressure system explodes at just the right time. But I'm not confident enough to forecast that type of dynamic development 4 days out, because any one of these disturbances could do that. So we're just going to watch each one of these disturbances as they develop. And again, on Thursday, we're looking at much colder conditions with temperatures in the mid to upper 30s for highs. And then as we move on towards Friday, we'll jump right to Friday, we have colder air in place. It's certainly going to be a little bit more of a winter type feel. We're going to have an Arctic cold front approaching the region. Temperatures on Friday will range from the mid to upper 20s for lows, upper 30s to lower 40s for highs. Pretty much near normal for this time of year. Then we step towards Saturday. Now this is where it gets a little more interesting again, because some of the model guidance suggests that we could have an area low pressure developing along the coast here. Some models, though, like the GFS, do not see that, because again, we're dealing with one disturbance after another. But by the time we get to Saturday, we're much colder. We're looking at low temperatures in the lower to mid 20s, and high temperatures struggling to break 30 degrees along the coast, mid to upper 20s over the interior. It's going to be a very chilly day on Saturday. And then on Sunday, jumping a little bit past, you can see that some of the model guidance here, the GFS is keeping this low pressure system further to the north. European model guidance has the low pressure here. So let's just take that southeast bias and we put that snowfall right around the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan areas. Now this pattern's a little bit different by the time we get here. And again, I really don't like going past 168 hours, and especially not past 240 hours. But the whole dynamic of the pattern is certainly starting to change here, where you get a ridge building over the west, trough in the east, you get a little bit more high latitude blocking over the northern Atlantic. So we're definitely moving towards a colder weather pattern. On Sunday, we're looking at temperatures struggling in the mid to upper teens for lows, and basically mid to upper 20s over the interior, upper 20s to lower 30s along the coast for highs, and the potential for another low pressure system along the coast here. But again, this is not a big winter storm pattern yet. I think after the 20th, which is where we're approaching here, that's when we see the potential start to increase, because our pattern starts to transition towards such a pattern where you get a nice strong polar vortex in up around Quebec. It shifts a little bit towards the Canadian Maritimes at the right time. We get ridging building over Greenland like we see here. And then you start entering a very interesting weather pattern with cold air funneling into the east, an active subtropical jet stream like this disturbance right here. And, well, that's how you get your winter storm. But we're not there yet, because this is the type of pattern that you start to look for winter storms. And this one is not. This one, you have your polar vortex shifting south and a series of disturbances moving through. It's a clipper type pattern which could produce a isolated heavy snowfall right along the coast if a low pressure system develops at just the right time. But it's not something where you can say, here's the time period where you're going to see a major snowstorm, because it just isn't that type of pattern yet. Well, that is your forecast discussion for today. Of course, I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Follow the latest weather information at nynjpaweather.com and nynjpaweather on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and LinkedIn. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there.